This conference will now be recorded.
Go to the chat and see.
They were muted here, Mike.
Oh.
They were muted.
Oh. Vino, can you
Where?
tell us if you hear it again? Okay, the next button. Yeah.
Councilor Sanchez?
What do you guys typically do when you want that?
Have to have the communication with him. It says his name on there, but
Yeah. Well, I went muted and back on.
hopefully he's able to gain access while all of the time when he's able to. Councilor Sanchez, if you can, you think you got it hooked up, just jump right in so I can log the time. Madam Chair, you have a quorum either way here.
Yeah, I'll take approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with changing 4 before 3 and 3 after 4 of the regular items. But everything else remains the same.
Second.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Councilor Sanchez.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Who was the second on that?
Me. Way down here. Okay.
Okay, minutes. Anybody?
Go for it.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the Public Safety Committee meeting on August 16th, 2022, and the September 13th, 2022 meeting.
Second.
I did have one
Second.
change. Somewhere in there, they spelled my name with an E. Not a big deal though, so it's okay.
I will correct that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Nobody. Okay, motion carries. All right, so we'll continue on with regular item number 4, consider request for budget amendment for animal control. Mr. Need.
All right, Madam Chair, Public Safety Committee, I'm gonna hand these out really quickly. This is a organizational chart. I just got 10 copies, but
One copy, I'll put.
yeah, and
Councilor Sanchez.
copy for the packet. So let's make sure we get one more copy back up here for the chair. I'll set the table a little bit, then I'll walk through where I'm asking for the Public Safety Committee within the structure of this amendment as well too. So on August 16th, we did a public meeting with the Support Roswell Animals Group, FORA, and all of our advocates for animal care. We held it over at the Convention Center on August 16th. At the end of that meeting, where they expressed a lot of their concerns about how we were operating, what we were doing and everything, we said that we would hold another meeting with them about 30 days after that. It was a little bit later than that, but on October 10th, we held another an informal group meeting. Councilor Halverson and Councilor Best were both in attendance for that meeting. And during that window of time from between those two meetings, we started researching the requests of what were being asked for by the advocates, what we were currently doing within our systems. And we brought in a list of changes that we would like to look at in order to help improve the service. And we received, I believe, a lot of support from the advocates that were in that informal meeting. And so this is the first step of moving into this conversation about making some adjustments to our animal service process and everything. So with that, just for everybody's sake of knowing what we have 100, I've got a better slide for that, but, and I'm since you guys don't use slides, I'm walking through the slides that I have. So we have about 152 enclosures for animals within the entire facility. When we are completely full, there's a lot of care that has to go into taking care of the dogs and the cats that are in there. And we continuously have the issues of overwhelming our system and taking care of that. So that's what started the conversation with that. One of the first things that we did, and I know Councilor Halverson, Mike Matthews, and everybody had been working on this, Mr. Burrows. The challenge for our rescues was knowing when or how we were removing animals out of there and trying to get there. So we actually, we began establishing shelter capacity at 11 a.m. And this is what we were trying to do, is that at 11 a.m. every day, we will determine if our shelter is full or not. And that will help those rescues understand what needs to be pulled and what we have time for. The challenge is that even though even if all the enclosures were full, we're not really full if we have one enclosure open at 11 a.m. because we don't know how many intakes we'll have throughout the rest of the day. It happens a lot of the weekends where we get more animals than we have enclosures, and we have to hold on to them anyway. And so we established this criteria of 11 a.m. to determine shelter capacity. And then at 2 p.m., if we don't have one enclosure for the cats, one enclosure for the dogs, we will have to do the bad stuff of making room within our facility. And so we talked about that. We also talked about the establishment of a two-step authorization process for the euthanization of any of the animals. That way it's not one individual saying these are the ones that we're going to put down. And so we wanted that two-step authorization. And this was just to help try to create standards of how we were going to make those operations. We have been attempting to go down to the 90% capacity level in the shelter because that seems to be what we're seeing in new intakes and what we currently have there. But we're not as worried about that because we're overwhelming the system anyway. And so the idea is let's set a standard. Let's figure out how we're doing this. All right, so we walked through all of that within that evening as well too. After the 11 o'clock shelter capacity, we also do an end of day report every day. And that end of day report tells us how many were rescued, how many were adopted, how many were euthanized, in order to help our rescues and our fosters all know how the animals moved through the facility and everything. And that seems to be working really well. I thought we had some compliments on that. We have challenges every once in a while when we're limited with staffing and everything, but it seems to be working really well. The second thing that we started working on and what we discussed that day was the staffing directive. So the conversation that we had in August and everything is that we would need to follow closer to what the Board of Veterinary Medicine, which serves as the shelter board essentially for the state. There's an administrative code out there that establishes some very good guidelines as to how to operate the shelters. So we looked at, and both at the meeting in August, both the Sport Roswell Animal Group and the city itself actually used this administrative code that recommends the standard of care of being 15 minutes per animal per day that we have in our enclosures. And so this is the standard that we are setting our animal shelter by. The challenge is that 152 enclosures, if we are completely full, and it takes 15 minutes a day to take care of the feeding and the cleaning of that, and that an average of a full-time employee can get done 28 enclosures per day, we are not staffed appropriately to manage a shelter that is continuously full at capacity. And so the idea was, and the recommendation that we have based upon where we're at, is to increase staffing at the shelter by adding 5 more shelter employees that will help with the cleaning and feeding and care of the strays that we pick up until they're adopted out. And we are wanting to increase 1 more regulatory and animal enforcement officer. And I'll explain why here as we go through that. So we are looking at essentially increasing our staffing by 6. And that's what the org chart shows. At the amount of that, of those, the ones that are in yellow on that org chart that I did hand out to everybody, all the ones in yellow do not exist at this time. I believe we may be down 1 employee right now in the shelter, which is one of the blues, and we need to get that filled. Because if we are to meet this standard of care for these animals at 152 enclosures full, we do not have enough personnel to get all of that done. And that's why I believe that our system is not working correctly. We are taking the officers off the street in order to help take care of the animals that we have acquired. So we have an issue on the street with picking up strays as well too. And it's a perpetual, or it's a cyclic system that just doesn't allow for it to work correctly. The challenge we have, and this is why the recommendation is actually to increase staff, because if we cannot increase staff and we cannot increase the resources that we're providing to the service, we have to reduce the amount of intake by almost 60% in the facility, which means that out of those 152 enclosures, we cannot use all those enclosures and take care of the animals to the level of what the administrative law says. And so rather than to do that, because we don't really want to build our shelter bigger, but what we want to do is operate it better. And so that's where I think in the past, as we've tackled these things, a lot of the stuff that we've tackled have been more systemic and not an overall look at saying, how are we supposed to be doing this? And so that meeting in August actually helped us determine that this is the request that we have. So the request is for $325,000 to the budget for the Roswell Animal Services. It is to purchase or to hire 5 more kennel workers and 1 more enforcement officer. With the kennel workers, that will allow our shelter manager to move into more of a role of a rescue and foster coordinator position. And we believe that that will be beneficial to us to help our volunteers get these animals out of there faster. And it seems to be working with the end of day reports and all of that. So we need more cleaners in order to help do this 15-minute of care per stray that we have. The idea we have with adding the 1 additional animal service officer is that we would like to position 1 officer in the facility during the day as essentially a desk sergeant. Police department uses desk sergeants, and they will take care of that day-to-day stuff of when we are doing the officer or the owner reclaims, that they can say, okay, well, this is the 3rd time you've had to reclaim your own animal. Here's your enforcement ticket to correct that. So that's why we want to have that essentially that desk sergeant or that officer in the office in order to do that. We amend the job description of our shelter manager, and then that allows our director of the services to even get at that higher level to move all these pieces around. So with what Nicole's doing as well too. And so I don't believe that based upon the amount of staffing that we have, that we can even maintain the 15-minute cleaning and care of the animals. And that's why I'm asking for that to get to that level. One of the conversations that will occur, because our animal shelter is operated as a county-wide shelter. We're bringing in intake from Hagerman, Dexter, Lake Arthur, and Chaves County as a whole as well too. So one of the other things that I wish to go through that, again, I need to fix our problem right now. And so I have informed the animal shelter staff and Mr. Burris to go out and hire temporary workers to get the cleaning up to the level that it needs to be. The problem I have is that I can't afford to do it for the entire year, which means I will put undue effort onto the budget, and I will not have enough money in order to finish out the year. But I cannot run the shelter at a below rules or law administrative rules. We're going to follow that standard for that. And so that means we're going to take care of the animals correctly, or we're going to have to reduce the number of animals. That's my catch 22 that I have with me. Along with all of that, because we are a county-wide shelter, our enforcement officers don't go out of town, but our shelter takes in animals from county-wide. And that's the other part of that. We've done some cooperative agreements research, and we will be having conversations based upon essentially a population analysis, because we don't know how many animals are out there, but we know that we can get a percentage of animals based upon the population of what we have in Chaves County. And so there's X number of animals based upon our population. So we will be recommending to the council that we have conversations with Chaves County, Dexter, Hagerman, Lake Arthur to help participate and help provide funding for the operation of the shelter piece of our facility. We've got our enforcement side covered. We need help with the shelter side. And so the request for additional $325,000 for that shelter will run the shelter up to about $775,000 a year operation. And I don't believe that at the end of the day that it should just be the residents of Roswell that will cover that entire cost, because we do bring in a lot of different animals from throughout the county. And so in my mind, if we are able to do this, we will be able to operate the shelter within the confines of the rules and the laws that are established for us by New Mexico and our city. And it moves us in a better place where we can have the more important conversations of the enforcement, the education, and all those other pieces that are important there. And so I was hoping that we would get representatives from the groups. I know they've been out on Facebook. I believe they support what I'm recommending here tonight. So I guess my request for Public Safety Committee is I would ask for your support with this request going forward to find $325,000 to increase the staffing at the shelter in order to operate the shelter to the standards that we're being asked to operate it at.
Did you put this on finance too, or do we need to vote?
We will. I have not put it on finance at this point. Finance would be the next one that it should go to. As I've talked to Juan and I haven't talked to Janie as much, but Juan, we would be recommending the use of cash on hand out of the general fund to cover the cost and to make sure that it does what we want it to do. And so I would ask that, yeah, if the Public Safety Committee is going to support this, then ask for it to go forward to finance as well too.
And have you set any meetings up with the county yet?
We have not set up, we had one meeting with the county, Lake Arthur, Dexter, and Hagerman. In that meeting, it was prior to the August meeting with all the public. That meeting there, we discussed understanding how everybody is operating their animal services in order to figure out what this creature was that we were dealing with the countywide. The next thing is I did share some of this information with Chaves County, but I have not shared it with the smaller communities in Chaves County.
Committee members, do you have any questions?
I think it needs to go on council, and if finance sees it, so be it. But I think these folks are getting very irritated and they want to get it moved forward. And I don't think we need to wait on finance. I think Bob can figure it out by us talking to him or whatever, and he can find it. And I just think it needs to go straight to full council.
I think the challenge with that has been, at least in the common practice with some other things, they've really wanted it to go into the finance committee. I know what you're saying. I appreciate it.
I'm just afraid if we do that, they'll turn it down in full council.
And then they'll push it back to finance. So,
At least another month.
and we have time to put it on to finance for this round as well.
Yeah, there's a finance meeting before next council.
But I understand what you're saying.
To me, it's that serious because you've got your group that finally has organized and they're very vocal. And they're going to get more vocal if we're not careful, which will be a bad thing for Roswell because once they get vocal, it's going to go national because that's how they work. So,
I'm just afraid.
and I understand what you're saying about Bob. I get that. But also at the last meeting, if you remember, he okayed 134,000 because he knows he can find it in the general fund. So.
From the council meeting. I would recommend
That's fine.
moving through finance and then to the,
However it gets here, it gets.
just because I don't want to hold anything up unintentionally as well too. And
Of course, you can put it on both.
I believe any one of our committees can move it forward to council.
I'm okay
But
with that.
I want to make sure that finance has a look at it because we will be using cash on hand in order to cover this, at least for that.
Because I feel that would calm the folks that they know it is going to full council, but it will go to finance first.
Yeah.
That pushes finance in to getting it done and not pushing it off the other side.
Well, and that's the thing. Any committee needs to be able to send stuff to council.
Correct.
Everything we send, well, not everything, but 90% of the things we send has a financial cost to it. Everything does not need to go through finance.
And this has been long awaited for even when,
Otherwise,
yeah.
finance committees taking the lion's share.
I mean, even when we rewrote the ordinance, we were always looking for money to go forward.
I guess as the compromise within this, I would ask that it goes to finance and the council if that's what you want your recommendation to do.
Gonna make the motion?
You have a color.
Oh, I got a town, just not into sharing, but that's okay. 10. I'd like to make a motion that we send increased funding for animal services of $325,000 to finance and also to full council for study and for them to find it in finance and then a full vote at full council.
Second.
Do we have any discussion with anyone else in the audience? All good? Okay. So to move it to move the $325,000 from the general fund to finance and then full council, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda is consider resolution 22XX condemnation. So quite a few, Mr. Franco.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, councilors. I have 10 properties, pictures. First property, 701 South Missouri. This one, code enforcement and the building inspector were called to this property by the RPD about the conditions. Inside was unsanitary, no running water, also no power. There's people living there illegally. The property owner was considering demolishing the property herself, but she's having a hard time with these people in there. She started the eviction notices on them and she's just waiting on that. But the inside of the house is totally trashed, graffitied. It's very, very bad. Second house, 1705 Port Maryland. This one, it's been condemned. It was condemned back in 2015. We just want to bring it up to date. We've been having problems with waters in this house also. But a couple of weeks ago, this lady came in and she's thinking about buying it from the property owner. So hopefully it'll be saved. But I also advised her that if she gets it into her name, that we will start the process over into her name until she brings it up to compliance. And she was fine with it. 1512 South Spruce and 1213 North Union and Ave. Those two houses were also condemned, one in 2017 and one in 2018. One at 512 South Spruce. The building inspector went over there on a PD call because I guess there was a squatter inside his house also. And he killed the neighbor's dog, so he wanted to re-condemn it, bring it back up to date. And property owner has made contact and going to secure the property. 1622 North Missouri. The building inspector's been at this house twice, and you can see the red tag on the window. Telling him to get a permit, he still hasn't came and got a permit. So he's kind of started on it, but I don't know if you can see the back of the property is real bad. 414 East 23rd, this is the mobile home. This one, APS, Adult Protective Services, called RPD, welfare check on this property. There was a old couple living here, and I deemed it unsuitable for them to live. So right now, one is living at a rest home until they can clean it out. The next one, 212 North Washington. This house, the front of it doesn't look bad, but the back, it's open to the public. It's got a basement. The basement's flooded. Got broken windows. The inspector has talked to the gentleman. The gentleman now lives in Artesia, and he says he's gonna try to secure the property. 2301 North Grand, Apartment A. I went on this one myself on a PD call. This one was, we got people in here living illegally in this apartment. The inside, you could tell by the pictures, it's uninhabitable, full of needles. Police is there quite often. And at the moment, we have the property owner in court for the same property. We filed on him back in May 17th of this year. He never showed up for court, so he has a warrant. 602 North Washington. This one was supposed to be condemned last year. Was supposed to ran through city council last year, but the guy went in and he told me he was gonna work on it. He went and pulled the permit, but never picked it up. So I worked with them, but now I haven't heard from him or anything. So we're gonna run it through this time. And 409 West Wilding, this house was a fire. Numerous syringes throughout the property. You can ask the fire marshal. He was there also. It was bad. Those are my 10 for the month.
Last month we didn't have any, did we?
We had one.
One or two?
Sorry?
No, there was one last month, but
Yes.
didn't have a meeting.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's why it's kind of big this month because they're combined.
Yeah, we're combining 2 months.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Franklin. Anybody want to make a motion? It's an honor.
So just quick information for you since you're new. The one on Washington, 602 Washington, he may try to call you. He's wanting to do a homeless deal with washers and dryers and showers. And like he said, he pulled a permit over a year ago and he did not follow through or obviously
He
didn't
never
even pick it up.
picked it up.
So his good intentions to me are no longer good.
Yeah.
My opinion.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you. Okay. Ready for a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we accept the condemnations of the 10 dilapidated properties that we put on consent agenda for the next full city council meeting.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Just for curiosity, what are our squatter laws?
What are squatter laws?
No, what are ours? Like I know in Florida, you have a squatter, you can't kick them out apparently or something.
No, these are, if they are identified as squatters in personal property and everything else, they can be removed.
Okay,
We remove them all the time.
okay.
It turns into a situation if the owners allow them to come in and now live in this residence, now they have to go through eviction notices after 7 days.
Yeah.
But 99% of these are not allowing any of these people to go in and live in these residences. They're just going in and squatting in them.
Yeah, because I just hear horror stories like in Florida, people go on vacation, they come back, and there's squatters in the house and they can't make them leave.
Right, then they have, yeah, Florida has a different.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and they're hard to get rid of through New Mexico law, because once they're in there, you go through a 30-day, then you go through a 60-day, then you go through a 90-day serving them papers. And if they don't get out, you have to go the 30-day, so forth and so on. It's just,
On an eviction style,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
Mhm.
just
Nightmares.
not cool. Been there, done that.
That's only if you've allowed them in.
Right.
Yeah, but if you haven't allowed them in, which a lot of these you said,
Right.
Yeah.
They're identifying these vacant homes and everything, and observing. I mean, they're doing their due diligence and watching these houses, knowing that nobody lives there and nobody's coming and going. And so they just take over.
okay. Non-action item, the West Second Building update.
Yes, ma'am. So on the West Second building, we are making progress on it. We have just obtained a quote and gotten a PO for new lighting through portions of the building. Some of the lighting areas weren't necessary to change, but we did update a lot of the evidence side of it and the bay area. We have been working with Justin with city maintenance. He's been a huge help. They've gotten functional water to the building. We've got a functional toilet, bathroom area, water heater. So we do have hot and cold water at the area. Through this upgrade of the lighting, we've also gone through and checked electrical. There are a couple of small minor electrical issues that Justin can fix as far as plugs and receptacles and identifying light switches that may or not need to be changed. So it's very minor on that side. We are moving forward as far as the next step, upgrading or not upgrading, but continuing the next step for our security system. And then we will also at the same time look at the old flood control building, which is going to be the SWAT building, and identify, we have identified the issues there. They're very minimal. The biggest thing on the flood control building is going to be mainly just security of windows. Because of it being a SWAT building, they're going to have certain vehicles and everything in there. So we are going to secure those windows where they're not able to be penetrated through, and then a minor security system on that building. We don't need to revamp that building by any means. It's mainly just going to be a storage for our SWAT vehicles. So we are making progress. I know sometimes it seems like it's slow, but a lot of that is being held somewhat captive by vendors and timeframes of getting bids and getting them in to do the work. So we are, there again, we are moving forward and making progress, and we're hoping to speed the process up of getting into that building.
Okay. Any questions from anyone? Thank you for that. Okay, communications update?
As you,
Yes, Jeff, you don't want me explaining communication. Madam Chair, I will say that this has been, I don't know if we figured out over 2 years.
Well, I talked to Karen earlier, we're trying to figure out, we kind of figured 2013 is when it started.
For a long time, really close to it. So I'll let him talk, him and Mike talk about the details.
So we're pretty close. We had a kind of a minor setback last Monday. Duncan Tower got struck by lightning. Everything on it's ruined except the microwave. So county it's one of the county towers. They're claiming insurance and go through that process. But the only thing that survived out of it was a microwave. So it kind of set back a little bit for our final testing and stuff. So once they get that back up,
If you may explain to them, I included the packet speech, you may explain to them how this system works with all the different locations. It's a backup.
It's kind of dry there. There's total it's 12 towers, and they're all linked together with little microwave dishes. So the radio system will, once you key up to talk, the radio system will go out to a computer, and the computer can tell you which tower it wants to broadcast off of and route the traffic accordingly to whatever it deems the best route. With them all being linked, there can be, we kind of built in a redundant loop, but kind of didn't build a redundant loop. So what a minor, like a communications failure can take out the whole system. And that's kind of some of the, one thing I wanted to say is that we're coming to the end of the project. It doesn't mean we're done spending money on the project, because there's some improvements that we want to make. And one of the improvements is just that. So Duncan got taken out last Monday. Microwave survived, so our link is still up. But if that link would have went down, we would have lost all of our multicast traffic.
That's a you're going to have to explain, since you said multicast, you're going to have to explain the difference between multicast and simulcast now.
Multicast is gonna, once you key up, it's gonna transmit traffic across all the towers. Simulcast will transmit simultaneously across whatever tower there is. There's a city simulcast and a kind of a county simulcast. And that's county is for the SOs. So like if you're in, I'm a Capitan, you key up, it's gonna be multicast and it's spread over the entire town. So no matter where you're at in the county, you'll be able to hear it. But that, if that would have went down, the whole entire county microcast, multicast would have went down. Well, the state, we've ridden part of the state's network, and the state's riding part of our towers, we're riding their towers. But they have interest in getting our tower up north, which would benefit us because we can build a redundant loop, so if nothing goes down, we still have a loop around that can still communicate with one another. Well, the state's willing to pay 50%, then if we pay 50% of the other 50%, because the county will go 50% with us, so we pay 25%, we can get the redundant link. And that's kind of the upgrades that we want to do. There's over-the-air programming. Right now, if we have a programming change, we have to touch 900 radios, 1,400 radios. Well, for an upgrade, we can do over-the-air programming. So I mean, it's kind of, I just wanted to emphasize, we're not done with the radio project. There will be upgrades, but we are closer than we ever have to have a good radio. PD's been running, they're running full encrypted, so ScanLab's gone. All the people live off that. What else? We beat the snow at Capitan. It snowed yesterday. They finally got, last week they got that up and running. Hagerman location is finally running as well. Hagerman, there was a big hang up. We were going to use the city of Hagerman's tower. There was some conflict there. So the county ended up building their own tower over by the county landfill. So that was a year-long process to get it all erected. So that was a delay.
You said landfill, you mean the dumpers?
Yeah.
So they don't have a, they just have a.
So when I say we're through, almost done with the project, we're done with the original project that we applied for, we got grants for, that project is done. Upgrades, modifications to that project is kind of like a training facility. There's always going to be other things you can add to it to upgrade and better your system. That's what Jeff's talking about. What I'm talking about is the original project is near completion.
And we hope to be testing this week. The original plan was to be, but we're definitely going down. We kind of delay that.
And to put it in perspective, every emergency vehicle in Chaves County, every officer, firefighter, EMT that carries a portable radio, all those radios have been replaced countywide. So it's all brand new equipment.
We have no dead spots.
Well,
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
and it's pretty good. You're going to have a dead spot.
Well, yeah, but not as many as we had last time. Okay.
And that's going to be, so when we did it, we paid for a study to be done when it's complete. So once it's complete, testing's done, the people who engineered the project are going to come down and do the final coverage on it. So we can see exactly what was proposed and what we have. And if you look at the coverage map, these are portable only. They don't count for mobile radios. The mobile radios are, 90 watts compared to 3 watts on a portable.
So what happens if Duncan's go down? Will this one talk to this tower or?
Well, if you have a redundant loop, it doesn't go down, it just doesn't broadcast out that.
Yeah.
Right now, if it goes down, it's going to take off all of the multicast system.
Doesn't mean the system, the multicast system is down, the entire system
The
is down.
simulcast is
You
still.
still have communication.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they're getting worried about. You're not explaining it well.
Yeah, it's just not going to get spread out everywhere. Yeah.
One tower goes down, we lose all communication. And that's not.
No.
But you're just going to, if it goes down, you're just going to broadcast off the tower that you're communicating to, and that's the only tower that we broadcast off.
Yeah.
With that being said, they can, no matter which tower you talk to, dispatch will hear you.
Yeah.
But you're just not going to be, if somebody else is coming further away, they may be in a dead spot because it's not multicasting across multiple towers.
And dispatch would have to relay a message.
Well, if they could reach the other one, if they're in a dead spot, they can.
But like if someone was coming from Elida to help someone in Duncan and Duncan down, they would have to tell dispatch to be able to tell
Yeah.
Duncan.
It'd be severely crippled. Without that redundant, with that small jump, which is actually from the Mesa location, the Mesa Red Stop,
Well, that's what I was
the
on.
High Lonesome location, which is the state location. If that small link right there was provided, which is why they're proposing the 50-50 split, then that creates the entire loop.
And is that where the High Lonesome is where the state's wanting to,
High Lonesome was the state is currently, they're wanting to get on the north.
on the North Mesa?
They own that tower, we own the one at Mesa.
Okay.
West off.
And it's doing the same thing for them. This is creating a loop for them. So that's why they want to pay the 50% because they're heavily invested in it too. And then we already sharing microwave traffic on other towers as well. So it's,
Okay, so you said 50%, 50 and 25% if we can, what are we talking about? What's the dollar?
they haven't got the total dollar amount yet.
They ballparked it because they don't have a full quote yet. The total project would be 60,000. So 50%, 30 between the city and county, 15,000 with the city.
That ain't nothing.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I'd say, I mean, I want the county to come in, but even if they don't,
Actually, the county has on this project, we get 50-50 split of the project. Actually, they've ended up working more than that because they built their own tower. They did all the solar equipment and generator at Capitan. It's really expensive. So the county's been really helpful and I don't see any.
But they're the main ones that use Capitan.
Correct.
Yeah, well, we don't have the,
But if you go to multicast and they go out of the county, they will be on.
I mean, in the real world, we wouldn't really have to have multicast, except if we're going out,
Well, any kind of mutual aid.
yeah, mutual aid.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're just here. The city does it.
So they get the biggest benefit out of
Oh,
it.
absolutely. But I'm just saying, they really,
So this car's 285.
But that particular location, it's hard to tell on that coverage map, but that covers a massive part of the county. So any kind of RFP responding as mutual aid or AMR, 100% would have that location.
And this little jagged thing mess you guys up? Little corner of the county being off by itself like that?
if you look, you can see where Capitan shadows. If you see this little funnel,
Yeah.
that's where Capitan's here, and it's shadowing that portion of it. Like I say, this is based off of handheld radios, not the ones in the cars.
Yeah.
oh, wow.
The one in the car.
So we still coverage in the very southeast corner.
Then portable, 10 watts?
Yeah, that's pretty.
A portable, there's
Did there? Very. Anyone move down in there?
Yeah, they do, but
Yeah, I know.
And in this
I actually know a
situation where
couple.
Duncan took a hit, there's zero location.
Also, that's like that whole section there probably doesn't have any, that whole back corner that I was talking about, they don't have any. Okay. Any more questions, comment? Thank you for that information.
Kevin, come on up.
To the table. I'll stay here if that's all right.
That's fine, that's fine.
I took a shower last month at least.
Maybe I did.
Madam Chair, I have asked Kevin Prescott, the operations manager for AMR, to come back and do another kind of just an update report. We had our House Oversight meeting this week. He presented some great information and I thought it'd be worthy to share some of that stuff. So
Madam Chair, Councilors, thanks for having me. I just wanted to, we gave our ambulance oversight committee update and we've got a lot of good things going on with AMR, Rockville, and Chavez County. Our personnel, we're up to 53 people. We've been really blessed with staffing. We've got several students. We've got one paramedic student right now at college that's set to graduate probably in the next, other graduation will be next semester. He's on track to finish his internship in Carlsbad here in the next couple of weeks. We've got actually several students out there. We've got 40 more that have started the program right now that we're sponsoring through. So those go through about a year and a half. So they're training. We've got a couple of intermediates out there going flex. So we're still getting people educated up, trying to fill those voids for paramedics, make sure we have paramedics in lots of places. So, but it's, we're pretty good. We're getting those folks working. We've got eight units working daily. We've got 5 full-time 24-hour trucks that stay on the street 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. And then the other 3 of those, 2 of them are dedicated to inner facilities. And those do most of the trips that go outside of Rossville, leave our community. And a lot of folks we've got a lot of transports coming from other places. Eastern's still bringing in folks, trying to be that regional facility. They're bringing in folks. We're going out and getting quite a few folks and bringing them in. So those trucks are moving. We run those 12 hours a day. Well, it actually runs about a gap of about 18 hours, and we shut down those trucks in the middle of the night. It's just trying to manage those hours for safety for those folks. And then we've got one other ALS truck that kind of fits the void in the busy parts of the day. So we'll have 6 ALS trucks working through the city all day long. We have the 3 stations, one south at St. Mary's Place that the county has down by Casa Maria and by the sheriff's office, one right over here on First Street. We've got that station and our main station up on Country Club. We're still running those all 3 stations, posting 2 trucks out of each station on a daily basis. There's actually more of that out in the North Station. The EMD system and the Pro QA has really changed things a lot for what we do in Chavez County. In Rossville, I pulled a report. We had them pull a report from June through the middle of September, and we've changed the way things work with how we respond to calls with the city. And we've got saving some of that time wear and tear on the engines and going. And over 700 of the calls that we responded to out of about 4,000 in that time frame, 700 of those were what we established as EMS only calls. So alpha or omega calls, those are just where the ambulance goes. It goes to the cold response. It's the proverbial 90 hertz an hour. Someone's having some minor difficulties or whatever, and they go on, it's the EMS only call. That's really changed a lot in what we do and how we respond to calls. So we've got a truck that we staff with intermediate levels, which is the first grade down from paramedic for the ALS coverage. We've got those folks that are running on those calls. They're just really filling that gap. Keeping those ALS trucks with the paramedics on them, they're available for the more serious of the calls. So it's really changed a lot. I was really just almost blown away. I knew we did a lot of EMS type only calls, but EMD and the Pro QA is really just, it's a lot. That's a lot of calls that are just the EMS only. So that's really changed a bunch, and that's really working well for us. one of the things we're doing to help keep that truck staffed at an appropriate level, we just applied for what the state calls special skills for intermediates, and that's to bring up to the intermediate level. We'll have a paramedic special skill for cardiac monitoring and for the cardiac monitor. So if we do get to that, every once in a while, Allison couldn't vouch for this, but every once in a while we get that call that comes in as the EMS only, because of the questions that the person on the phone has answered. It's nothing on dispatch. It's that person's given those answers to the questions and they weren't the right answers. And then we get there and it's a code blue, right? So now we've got a truck there that's by itself. We don't have the extra manpower. We're making sure that those folks, those intermediates that are on that truck, have that advanced care to do that. One of the other special skills we're looking at for the advanced care for intermediates is adding benzodiazepines, so that if we get onto the seizures are a big thing in our community. So having that available to them for that intermediate level. It's a little bit higher level of care, so that's still a higher level ALS truck. So one of the other things on special skills, on September 9th, we had applied for special skills at the paramedic level. The special skills for RSI, which is rapid sedation induction, which is where someone we can't maintain an airway, we can't ventilate that patient, but they're still conscious, still awake, but we can't help them. We can sedate them all the way and intubate them and breathe for them. So that's a special skill within the state. That's really big for our community. It really adds a really high level of care for that. So other special skills with some other drugs were added in there as well. So that really puts the things out there that really make things better for the EMS system here in Roswell and Chaves County. But we're really excited about those things. We've been really working hard with the Chaves County EMS group and trying to do that. We're working with Roswell Fire Department. We had a 16-hour training program here a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 16-hour training program for the RSI, which included the Roswell Fire Department. The special skills on that, they've got their own application in place now that's going through the process. We don't anticipate anything delayed there. Basically, the medical direction board was like, look, they just got to have their own, it's all accountability in QA, QI, and who's in charge of the people. So once that happens, we'll be in a better place for that too, because they'll have that same special skill that we will out in the field to help us with that. So that's real exciting news for that. Back to some of the dispatch stuff and those things for Pro QA. We have secured funding for MDTs in the trucks, which is the mobile systems for the dispatch communications, where we actually see it on the screen. Right now, we're just using it on the phone type app, and it's working okay, but there's glitches in the app. So we often have problems with the app being delayed. By the time we get to the call, the information's coming in, we're already there in the mix of it. So, but we've got those systems on order, but in today's world, everything's backward. So hard to get computer stuff and hard to get those things, but we've got that stuff on its way. Really hoping that's going to get there. We've been doing a lot of standbys and stuff with football. All three high schools, we played football. We wanted us to be there at the middle school games, which was something that's never been done. Those kids are getting tired now. They're going to set it up. So we're doing those. The Roswell Drag Strip, we've been doing standbys for them, and we trying to be at all the different other county events for the county fair. I know we were out there, the fire department were all out there, just kind of that fair has really kind of picked up this year. So a lot of stuff going on out there. So we've been out there, all the different little community events, working with TransAero, the flight service here, and Native Air, the other flight service here, working with those folks, doing trainings and different stuff. So we're really excited about it. Numbers are pretty good so far this year. The numbers kind of show that on the calls for service are well over 12,000. 12,000. That's a lot of running down the highway. So that's pretty much all I have. If you all have any questions, I'm open to answer anything.
Thank you. It sounds like you guys encourage the higher education. So when the special services, your EMTs request that they learn more for the special services?
So in the special skills stuff, what that actually does is it kind of puts the paramedics in the critical care category. So in the grading of how we put paramedics in the level, if they haven't got that special skill certification, it'd be basically what's called paramedic basic. And then if they've got the special skill training, then they're paramedic plus. Right, so it doesn't really change anything on what the treatment is as far as the ambulance response to cities. So in the state tariffs of how ambulance billing happens in the state of New Mexico, there's ALS level of coverage, and then there's two different ALS levels, or three actually. There's ALS level coverage, ALS level 1, and ALS level 2. So ALS level 2 would be your cardiac arrest. That's all of the advanced levels. That's everything's going to go. That RSI procedure would fall into that category. It's just the advanced level of care. So, but to answer your question, that extra education does fall in there. And our people actually, they eat it up. And we make that training. So like we did the training with the fire department, our people, we make that training available to everybody. So if the EMT basics want to take the RSI training, they don't get RSI certified because that's above their skill level, but they can get that individual training. They get CEs for it to help keep their license. But what it does build is a better, stronger person in the knowledge power. So when it comes time for them to advance to the intermediate level, they already kind of know what's going on and they're ready for that. When they go to school out here to college or another program, they're better prepared for that. Same thing with those intermediates. When they start to do that, we got our intermediates setting up vents for us and doing all the different stuff. They know how these things operate. They can't actually turn it on and operate, but they do the stuff for the procedure, but they have that knowledge. So when they go to the school out here for going to paramedic school, they get out there like, hey man, this stuff's like light bulbs just keep popping on. They're like, that really makes sense now. Now I totally understand, but they already had that base ground knowledge. So it really does help. So.
I want to thank you guys. You're out in the community. I know you're helping with the baby box and I saw you in the parade. You were to step up for Down syndrome. It's good to see a company doing that. Thank you for that.
We're you know, my boss is always saying, we're glad to be here as AMR. I mean, almost every single person in here, we've only got one person now that commutes. One of them, you did commute, she's moved here, became a supervisor for us, and she's actually moved to our community. So we've only got one person that actually lives outside of the Roswell-Chaves County area and commutes here. So other than that, everybody, all the 52 other people work, live, breathe, and are called home area. So, you know, it's what's unique to EMS and what we do. I mean, it's, you know, we always say it in the fire service. More times than not, you know, you're going to eventually respond on somebody that's a family member or a friend, or, you know, and you're going to know those people. You run into them at Walmart. So our people really enjoy it. We love them.
Thank you. Any more questions?
I wish you had this program back in the 80s when I was an EMT, because you just got to the end and you just stopped. There was nowhere to go, but it sounds like you're moving right along, which is awesome.
We want the system to be well provided for. We want the patient care that happens within the city. They have, you know, I've had that worst opportunity where I had to go to the ambulance doors on the back of my own father, you know, and go to the hospital with my ambulance. I've got to be able to do that. At the end of the day, when all my people are back there, I got to be able to put my loved one in that truck, close it, take care of the rest of my family. You know, and that's what we want everybody to be. They turn and get the citizens of the city of Roswell, shut that door. They trust the person inside there to do the best that they can.
It's nice.
Barry, Savino?
I'm good.
Well, thank you for that.
No.
Okay, thank you so much. If you guys, do you want to skip the monthly reports? Because the forum's going to start at 30. And then we do have a, next month, I'm going to be out of town on a banking conference. So we're going to have to move that meeting.
That works good, because I was just realizing
You won't be
that's
here
in the
either?
middle of my hunt.
Oh, so you won't be here either. So we wouldn't.
Maybe I'm reading that already, but
You're hoping you do.
hopefully I'm
What do you think? Yeah.
not dear.
So November 15th out. I'm gone pretty much that whole week.
Okay.
What day works?
Would you mind if I looked at the days of the next week and find out what other committees
that's
are?
fine.
Because that next week is
Yeah.
when other committees start
You want to just
meeting.
email us and
And then if I could just email all of you as a group.
Your next week is Thanksgiving.
That's right. So
put that Tuesday. I don't know if anyone planning to go to
The
town.
22nd.
I'll look at the 22nd and see if there's,
Okay.
are you out of school on, Counselor, on the 22nd?
Yeah.
So would a morning meeting work?
It could. But that's also, I may be in Lubbock that time too, because, but who knows?
Let me,
Calling if you're in Lubbock.
Yeah,
If you're hunting, it's hard.
yeah. I'm hunting, I can't call in. There's no service whatsoever.
if it pleases the committee, I'll look at those dates in that week and especially on the 22nd and I'll email it.
Did anybody, since I skipped the monthly report, did anybody have any pressing on the monthly reports that we needed to cover?
And I'm included in your packet. Please take a moment to read through them. If you have any questions, contact the directors of the departments. And I'll be glad to give you a better explanation or answer your questions.
More comments or questions? Anything?
No comment. We have a. If there's any public.
There's nothing in it.
Let's say we adjourn. Thank you, everyone.
5:30. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you.
Yes.
Go home to that baby. You don't have to go to the forum, do you?
I do have a